Namaste. Welcome to 15th episode of a 100-part Ramanuja Refutation series. We shall continue looking at Ramanuja's Gita Bhashya on verse 212, which we also saw in the previous video. Today we dwell deeply on the foundations of the very argument, and we will see how the claims of pluralism collapses when the scriptures are read in their authentic contextual depth. What Ramanuja says in the commentary of 212 is, Bhagavad Ukta Bhedaha Swabhavikaha iti Shruti api aha nityo nityanam chetanam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman iti nityanam bahunam chetananam yah ekaha chetanaha nityaha saha kaman vidadati ityartaha. Here he quotes the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad Sruti 6:13 and uses it to establish plurality. Atmavedaha Bhagavad Ukta Atmavedaha Swabhavikaha says the differences, the plurality among jivas and the distinction between jivas and Paramatma, this is a natural distinction. And he explains the Shruti his way to prove plurality. Let's understand this verse of Shruti first. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam. Here Upanishad is talking about that nitya, that chetana, that devaha, ekaha, which is in the form of everything, in fact the essence of everything. Ramanuja has wantedly ignored the second part of the verse, which talks about that Deva, the Bhagavan, who is Nityo Nityanam, Chetanas Chetananam, who is Ekaha, and then the next line proceeds to say, Jnatva Devam Muchyate Sarvapashaihi, having understood, Jnatva, having understood that Paramatma. Here, understanding Paramatma is pointed out as the means to cross over samsara, muchyate, one is liberated from samsara. This negates the doctrine of Ramanuja, which talks about that Bhagavad Prapti is only after death in the loka of Vishnu and not something which is gained by knowledge. Ramanuja's manipulation is seen clearly by not quoting the second half of this verse and selectively quoting the first line to prove plurality, whereas this verse actually negates that. It's a logical fallacy which Ramanuja makes, not understanding the very context of this verse in the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad. So to understand context, we have to see what has gone by and what is going to come after the verse. So let's see what has gone by. In 6:11, this Shruti says, Eko Devaha Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha Sarvavyapi Sarvabhutantaratma Paramadhyakshaha Sarvabhutadivasaha Sakshi Cheta Kevalo Nirgunascha. This verse is willingly not quoted by Ramanuja, as this verse demolishes Ramanuja's theology single-handedly. Sarvavyapi, Sarvabhutantaratma, and later the Shruti proceeds to use two keywords which reveal Advaita directly, and that is Kevalaha, Nirgunaha. Now here these two words are something which Ramanuja and Sri Vaishnavas don't hesitate to even ridicule. But these are not Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya's words, these are the words directly from the Vedas. Kevalaha Nirgunaha. So this was 6:11. Now let's look at 6:12. Eko vashi nishkriyanam bahunam ekam bijam bahudayah karoti tamatmastam yenu pashyanti dhiraha esham sukham shashvatam naitaresham. Here in the second line, Shruti says atmastham ye anupashyanti atmastham devam, which is directly pointing out Tattvamasi Vakyartha. The result of that is talked about, and that is Jivan Mukti. Esham sukham shashvatam naitaresham. This is what real sukha is. Real freedom is, liberation is in recognizing oneness with Ishvara here and now. So this Jivan Mukti and the Jiveshwar Aikya Jnanam, the knowledge of oneness, both which are rejected by Ramanuja, is the explicit mention of Śvetāśvatara Shruti 6:12. And anyway, we saw the 6:13. So clearly this verse cannot mean plurality, as Ramanuja uses this saying Bhagavad Ukta Atmabhedaha Swabhavikaha iti Shruti api aha. So this statement by Ramanuja that even Shruti is talking about plurality and a Bhagavan being distinct from everything and jivas being many, the whole thing stands negated in the light of the context of 6:13, therefore proving the quote of 6:13 Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad by Ramanuja in proving plurality on verse 212 of Bhagavad Gita is totally inappropriate and even manipulative by nature, because it is going against direct context and the flow of the Upanishad itself. And let's continue see what is said in the coming verses after 6:13. The verse 6:15 says, Eko hamsaha bhuvanasya madhye sa eva agnis salile sannivishtaha meva viditva atimrutyumeti nanyaf pantha vidyate ayanaya. If you observe here, Shruti says viditva, having understood, atimrutyumeti. Even if the Sri Vaishnavas come to counter this, saying that no, the previous verse was talking about that Shashvata Sukha, which is also talked about in the Siddha Prajna Lakshana, is not talking about moksha. It's talking about some happiness gained in the mind of a practitioner. But that Shashvata Sukha, Bhagavad Gita is talking about Atyantika Sukha. Here Shruti is talking about Shashvata Sukha. And then this is not just some Sukha, but this is indeed moksha, which is gained while alive, and that is only by knowledge. The next verse makes it clear. Tameva viditva atimrutyameti. Having understood one crosses over mrityu, one gains moksha, one is liberated. The routine argument is there can be many paths to this enlightenment and liberation, where Shruti makes it clear, Nanyaf Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya. There is no other path to gain immortality and moksha. So all the bhakti propaganda collapses in the recognition of what Shruti actually is saying. Ramanuja selectively cites 6.13 of Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad, but ignores 6.11, 6.12, 6.15 because he doesn't want people to find out what really the Upanishad is saying, because he wants to trap people in the theology of plurality and committed to sell the promise after death. Shruti affirms non-duality and the unity between Atma and Brahman by using Kevalaha and Nirgunaha, and also makes the result of this knowledge very clear, Shashvata Sukha, Atimrutyameti, as a real goal and not any post-death realms. Plural usage of 6.13 is only to represent everything and saying the essence of everything is that Paramatma. The true teaching is understanding that Om Tat Sat.